Yo, what's poppy gamers? Welcome back to a brand new bad business video. And recently I asked you guys in my community tab on the YouTube channel, what are some tips and trick videos that'll be helpful to you guys? And I got a ton of comments of people asking for me to go over all the attachments of what they do, what are all the meanings for them, as well as the percentages for all the attachments. Now, what I could say is I did a ton of research. I got everything you guys need in terms of explaining what in every attachment does. For example, what handling does, because that's the mysterious attachment of all time. I'm gonna tell you right now, do not use anything that has handling con, and I'll explain that here shortly. But one thing I would like to note is, one, Bad Business is always going through a ton of changes in terms of stats, so just know that everything we go over today could change. Best way to stay up to date with all those changes is to be in the Bad Business Discord. Second thing I would like to mention is things like barrels, ammos, as well as stocks. Those are things that we can't really know the exact percentage of stats that are happening to them. So I just want to make that very clear that I cannot give you an accurate percentage of what something is doing in terms of exclusive attachments per weapon. I can only give you the exact stat percentages for like muzzles, lasers, underbarrels, grips, perks, things like that. So I just want to make that clear. But what I can do is explain what each and every one of these attachment stats mean. Basically what they're doing to the weapon. I just can't give you the exact percentage for some of the attachments. With that said, I would like to mention that this video is split up into two. If you look at the video progression bar down below, you'll see that there's split between two different categories in the video. You can either skip to the percentages of what attachments are doing if you guys already feel like you understand these attachments enough, but trust me, there's a few that you don't understand, so stick around. But if you feel like you understand everything, you can skip to the percentages. Anyways, with that said, let's get into explaining all the attachments. Firstly, I like to go over the biggest mystery in Bad Business history, which is handling. Is the worst con you can have on any attachment. There is a handling con on an attachment. You better hope that all those pros are worth it to you, because the con one for handling is horrendous. Let me just explain to you guys what it does. Ethan explained that handling does these things. You guys ready for this? So if it's a con, it's hurting ADS time, sprint time, equip time, and unequipped time. So it's hurting quite a lot. And if you guys want to know how much it's hurting it percentage wise, watch the second part of the video and you'll get all those stats that you want. I won't lie to you, I have put the granulated tape on that has handling as a con, and I always wondered why certain things like ADS speed was being affected, but now I know it was handling this whole time doing that. Alrighty, the next thing I would like to explain that some people might not understand, which is, but it has to do with the recoil pros and or cons. There is two different types of recoil in this game. So let me explain that to you. Basically, if you see decreased horizontal recoil, that means the actual weapon's recoil, how much it kicks side to side, right? But then you also have another pro that increases horizontal recoil control. The key word here is control. So if you see that, this is what this means. So every grip has a horizontal recoil and or vertical. And then it also has a horizontal variance and or vertical, depending on which one you choose, obviously. But what does variance mean? Basically, this is to do with the RNG in the game. If you guys don't know, each time you shoot your weapon and then you wait a little bit and shoot again, it's going to have a different recoil pattern. So basically, it's going to make that affect you less. That's the best way to explain it. It's not going to be as bad if you have, let's say, the angle grip on. Your horizontal variance, the RNG recoil is not going to be as bad with the attachment on as it would be with it off. So you always have to keep that in mind whenever something says recoil control and then also just says recoil. Just know those are the two different stats and what they mean. Those are the two most confusing things in the game, the handling and also the vertical. The rest is all pretty self-explanatory, and I'll go over all that for you guys. The third most confusing one is probably camera shake. A lot of people don't understand what exactly that entails. Basically, when you aim down sights and shoot your weapon, your camera will shake a little bit. It actually has this effect to make you feel like there's more recoil than there actually is. A game that's very popular for doing this, and it's their main source of recoil, fake recoil, I would like to mention, which is Phantom Forces. PF is widely known for doing this, and it's actually been a very popular thing for them because a lot of their weapons don't actually have really any recoil whatsoever, but it makes it feel like there's recoil via camera shake. It's a very interesting trick to do. A lot of games do it, including AAA titles still do it till this day, and it's pretty cool. So for example, if you use the perk Steady Shot, it will help with that camera shake. This perk is probably most useful on things like LMGs, where there is a lot of camera shake. On other things, there are some weapons that might have a decent amount, but nothing that's too crazy where it's actually an important attachment. Next up is ADS speed. For some reason, people still don't understand what this is. I always get comments asking, what does it mean? People are confused what ADS means. That means aim down sight. I know it also could say ads. I get it. Okay, it can be confusing, but it means how fast you aim your weapon. That's simple as that, self-explanatory. Hip fire accuracy means how accurate your weapon is when you hip fire. Same goes for cons. Mobility is obviously how fast you run with your weapon out. This does not affect your overall character. Keep that in mind. If you have a weapon out that, you know, gives you 50 mobility, you're going to be running at a 50 mobility speed with that weapon out. But for example, your knife has a 105 mobility, so if you swap to your knife, you'll be running at 105 mobility. Just to make that clear, it does not affect overall character weight. Just if you hold it out, it affects you. Pretty much everything else is self-explanatory. Proning accuracy means if you prone, you'll be more accurate across the board. Damage range, increase or decrease damage. That obviously means your weapon is going to be doing more damage, and obviously damage at range mean that it will do more damage from further away. Those are all self-explanatory. I don't think I had to go too much in detail, but that's what all those mean. Alrighty, but I think that's everything explained in terms of what pros and cons mean. Obviously, everything I explained, if it's a con, it's the opposite of what I just explained. Now let's get into the percentages. Again, like I said, this is only via universal attachments, so muzzles, grips, lasers, perks, and so on. So firstly, let's go ahead and go over the perks section and what the percentage of all these do. XP boost gives you a 20% increase of experience, so you're basically leveling up weapons about 20% faster. Tactical holster obviously will be swap speed increased by 35%, which is a pretty good amount, won't lie. Things like LMGs and snipers, that might be helpful to have that swap speed. Steady shot will increase your camera recoil by 25%, so it'll help out in camera recoil. That's kind of only useful on weapons that have a ton of camera recoil, so mainly like LMGs and such. Next up is sleight of hand, which gives you a 20% increase of reload speed. That's honestly really good. I wish it was more around 25% though. Next up is sharpshooter, gives you a 20% increase of recoil control. Pretty good. Quick draw will give you a 20% increase in aim down sight speed. And lastly, lightweight will give you a 5% increase of mobility. There's FMJ, but that's not universal to every attachment or every weapon. That's universal to only snipers, which will give you a +1 piercing, so you can collateral players. Next up, moving over to the grip tapes. First up is the stippled tape, which gives you a -10% of horizontal variance as well as vertical variance. So that's like how much your weapon has RNG recoil. So that's not the greatest thing to have. And then you also get a +10% handling, which in this case would improve ADS time, sprint time, equip time, unequip time, which would be a 10% handling. I don't know exactly how that 10% is distributed. I don't know if that means 10% more ADS, sprint, etc., or if that means that those are all split up to 10%. So I don't exactly know. Again, this is something that Bad Business needs to work on a little bit, and over time it will get better. So stuff like that is more explained, much easier to understand. Next up is rubberized tape, which gives you a +5% horizontal variance as well as a +15 vertical variance, but you get a -10% hip fire accuracy, which isn't the worst thing to have, but it's also not great either. Rubberized tape will actually be very good on weapons that tend to have quite a bit of horizontal or vertical variance, but obviously you want to use that one mainly for vertical variance. And next up is granulated tape, which has a +15% of horizontal variance and also a +5% of vertical variance. But what makes this attachment not worth it is it has a -15% handling. I would not use this perk regardless of what weapon I'm using, because I'm not getting hit with all those negatives that we talked about. Handling is probably the worst negative perk to have in the game. So if you have anything con related to handling, don't do it. Moving on to the muzzles. First up is the muzzle brake. probably the most popular muzzle in the game, that and monolithic. You get a 10% vertical recoil increase as well as a 10% vertical variance increase, but you get a minus 5% camera recoil, so you have a little bit more camera shake when shooting. Next up is for compensator, which basically does the same thing as vertical but opposite, so it has a plus 10% horizontal recoil as well as 10% variance but minus 5% camera recoil. Moving up to the flash hider, which in my opinion is a very underrated attachment. This has a plus 5% horizontal recoil, plus 5% vertical recoil, plus 5 horizontal variance, and plus 5 vertical variance. The con for this weapon though is something that isn't the greatest to have. It has a minus 5% handling. Very interesting, but you do get 5% on all your recoil control that you would like to have, so that's also pretty cool. Next up, we have the tactical silencer. This obviously is silenced. It gives you a minus 10% range, but it will give you a plus 5% of handling. I wonder what a full handling attachment build would be like. I might do that at one point just to see what it's like. Next up is the monolithic suppressor. It gives you a plus 10% range and also gives you a con of minus 10% aim down sight speed. That's a pretty big con, not gonna lie. After that is the oil can silencer. This one is obviously silenced. This one's kind of interesting because it gives you a plus 15% range, but you get a minus 15% ADS speed and also a minus 5% hip fire accuracy. Kind of crazy that this gets 2 cons to it, but your visibility is also affected if you try to use anything iron sight related. I don't know, it's kind of interesting that it does this. Next up is the makeshift silencer, which gives you absolutely no benefits or cons whatsoever, but it is silenced. So if you guys want a fully silenced weapon, makeshift silencer is the way to go, because you get no cons or benefits. Only benefit you get is that it's silenced. Lightweight suppressor is silenced. It gives you a 5% decrease in range and no other cons to it. It just basically, it's for looks pretty much at that point. Next up is basic silencer, which gives you only 1 pro, which is being silenced, and the con for it is minus 5% ADS speed. Moving on to the laser category, first up we have tactical laser, which gives you a pro of 5% ADS speed as well as 10% hip fire accuracy. This gives you no cons whatsoever, which is pretty interesting. Next up is lightweight laser with a 5% of camera recoil pro and also a 10% hip fire accuracy increase. This also has no cons. Next up is flashpoint laser. This gives you a con of 5% of handling, but will give you a plus 15% of hip fire accuracy, which is pretty good, dude. I really do like that. And lastly, the ambi magnetic laser. You have a minus 5% of ADS speed and a plus 15% of hip fire accuracy. Alrighty, moving over to the grips. First up is the vertical foregrip. For the pros, you get a plus 15% vertical recoil and also a plus 15 vertical variance. And for the cons, you get a minus 15% of ADS speed. Man, that hurts. Next up is the tactical foregrip. For the pros on this one, you get a plus 15% horizontal variance and also plus 15% vertical variance. And the con for this one is minus 10% handling. Man, that hurts. That's pain, actually. Next up is the Ranger foregrip, which is probably the best attachment for foregrips in the game. For our pros, you get a 15% horizontal recoil, 15% vertical recoil, 10% horizontal variance, and also 10% vertical variance. For the cons, you're losing 2% mobility and also 5% ADS speed, which I kind of feel like is worth it, not gonna lie, because those stats are insane. Next up is the lightweight foregrip, which actually has really good stats. I don't know if defensive grip or lightweight grip is what you get first. Anyways, lightweight grip for the pros, you get plus 10% horizontal recoil and also plus 10% vertical recoil and no cons whatsoever. Next up is defensive grip, which I think is actually the one that you get at level 1, but that gives you a plus 10% horizontal variance and also a plus 10% vertical variance. Absolutely no cons. That grip is actually pretty good. So lightweight and defensive are pretty good grips, not gonna lie. They can be built perfectly with certain weapons. Obviously, if some weapons feel like they have more RNG recoil, you can decrease that. And if you feel like weapon has a little bit of recoil, but not too much, you can always throw this on and get no cons, but only benefits for lightweight. That's cool. Next up is the compensated grip. This is one that I don't really see people use too often, but this gets a plus 20% camera recoil and no cons whatsoever. So that's interesting. Next up is the canted foregrip. For pros, it gets a plus 10% horizontal recoil, plus 10% vertical recoil, plus 10% horizontal variance, and plus 10% vertical variance, and a minus 5% handling, which I think is actually worth it. The canted grip's kind of meta, not gonna lie. People might all start using the canted grip. That is kind of crazy. And lastly, which is the angle grip. For pros, you get a plus 15% horizontal recoil and a plus 15% horizontal variance. And for the con, you get minus 15% ADS speed. Man, that one hurts. I really don't think it should get a minus 15, considering that the Ranger grip completely outperforms that, but gets a minus 5% ADS and a minus 2 mobility. So either the Ranger grip is too strong or the angle grip just isn't balanced enough. It needs maybe a 10% ADS decrease, but I still don't think that's worth it in comparison to the Ranger. So either Ranger needs to be nerfed or the angular grip needs to be buffed, because in comparison, those really don't make too much sense, because the Ranger is overall trolling everything, as where the angled is only doing horizontal but is getting punished via ADS speed. Very weird. Hopefully this video was helpful to everybody, and I hope I helped you make your next favorite setup. Anyways, thank you guys so much for all the support. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.